Broadcasting across California, California's only statewide political show. You're watching The Issue Is.
And welcome to The Issue Is. I'm Elex Michaelson, and this week's guest literally needs no introduction. He is one of the most famous people in the entire country. Dr. Anthony Fauci is the White House's chief medical officer. Dr. Fauci, welcome back to The Issue Is.
Thank you, Alex. Good to be with you.
All right, let's begin with a conversation about where California is at right now. The Golden State has been more cautious than many other states. First to lock down, still has a mask mandate as compared to other states like Texas, Florida that are a lot more laxed. Now that we've seen some real results for the last several weeks, how do you assess California's approach and the decision by California's leaders?
You know, the decision to just continue to implement public health measures is a good one. And the reason I say that is that if you look at the country as a whole, we had a very large spike in the winter months, December, January, and into February. And then it started to come down rather sharply. But what's happened right now, it's plateaued at an unacceptably high level. And over the last maybe 2 to 3 weeks, it's inched up. And when I say it, I mean the daily cases have gone from 30 to 40 to 50, and now most recently over 60,000 a day. That is concerning because that is usually the forerunner of another surge, which we don't want to happen because we're in such good position with the vaccines rolling out in a really good fashion where we're vaccinating, maybe 3 million people per day. And every day that goes by, we get closer and closer to better control. So we get concerned when, understandably, states want to cut loose, they want to get back to normal, and they pull back a lot on the restrictions, and that just leads to this danger of rebounding. So, you know, we're trying to get the message, hang in there a bit longer. We're going to get through this, and this is going to end, but don't declare victory prematurely.
But California right now is reopening in a pretty significant way. At the same time, we are seeing those case surges in other parts of the country. We haven't seen that yet here in California. And we're learning about all these new variants. Should California maybe pause its reopening right now? Is it too much too soon?
Well, I think they need to be flexible and determine if you start to see a tick up to just pull back a bit. I mean, one of the things that's so important is to make sure that people continue to wear masks, as you see in this shot on the screen right now. That's really important. You don't ever want to underestimate the importance of mask wearing. The issue of restaurants and bars and things, you know, that can be problematic if people start congregating indoors a bit too much, and then you could get the concern that I'm talking about.
You know, this week we had news that Johnson & Johnson had to essentially toss out 15 million doses of the vaccine because of human error at an American plant. How does that happen? And what does that do to our timetable for vaccinations in this country?
Well, Alex, you answered your own question. It happened because it's human error. Yeah. And those things do happen. Thank goodness none of the doses that were involved in that particular incident have come out of that place and been administered to people in this country. So if people have a concern, oh, did we get a bad batch? No, absolutely not. This was caught in time. It's under investigation by the Food and Drug Administration. And with regard to your question about the timetable, J&J has guaranteed that they will have the 100 million doses to us that they promised by the end of May. So the bottom line answer, this should not interfere with our timetable.
That is good news. Love hearing that. This week, some more good news. The director of the CDC said something that really caught my attention. I want to play that for you and get you to respond.
Our data from the CDC today suggests, that vaccinated people do not carry the virus, don't get sick, and that it's not just in the clinical trials, but it's also in real-world data.
So if that is true, that if I'm vaccinated, I can't spread the disease, why then do I have to wear a mask? And does that knowledge change our thoughts about when we can open up?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Alex. And what Dr. Walensky was saying is that the preliminary data that she was talking about strongly suggests that vaccinated people do not spread it. What we're waiting for and what the CDC is waiting for before they pull back on the recommendation of wearing masks, even though you're vaccinated, is a definitive proof of that. And I think it will be coming soon. So what you're likely going to see as more data accumulate is a recommendation or a statement that, in fact, if you are vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask. But we're not there yet. We are getting there quickly. And there are a number of studies that are going on right now that are going to nail that down.
When you say soon, what does that mean? A few weeks, a few months? What are we looking at here in terms of?
You know, yeah, it's a good question, Alex, and I can't give you a definitive answer. I know there's one big study on college campuses that started a few days ago that my institute is funding, namely in a college campus setting where you could really monitor things very, very closely to answer the very question that you're asking. That will likely take a few months to get a definitive answer to that. But there are other studies that are going on that can actually underscore or confirm what you just heard Dr. Walensky say. So it might be happening before a few months, but I can't guarantee.
And if that is found to be the case, are we essentially looking at 100% reopening then?
You know, that's going to really depend. I mean, there are a few things going on that people should understand. There's the level of vaccination. I mean, if you get the overwhelming proportion of the population vaccinated, that almost certainly is going to be associated with a marked diminution in the level of infection in the community, namely the number of new infections per day. I think you're going to see both of those things happening simultaneously. People being vaccinated and the level going down to a very, very low level. 60,000 new cases in a day is not a low level. We've got to get way down. When we do, Alex, then you're going to start seeing a pretty rapid progression towards what you and I would consider as close to normal.
Well, and there's a question about how to incentivize that, right? There is a discussion now about so-called vaccine passports. That would be, for example, you can't fly unless you show proof of vaccination. Right now, kids have to show proof of vaccination to get into school. Does that make sense scientifically, practically, legally? I mean, what do you think of that concept?
You know, you just gave the three words that have different answers to them. Legally, practically. The fact is, from the standpoint of practicality, there is merit to that. There are a lot of concerns and objections about discrimination for people who don't, or Big Brother looking over you and giving you the right or not to enter into a theater or into a restaurant. It's a very controversial issue right now. But you can understand that there may be individual independent entities, not at the level of the federal government, but there may be some school districts that would say, unless you're vaccinated, you can't get in. Or some places of employment that say, unless you're vaccinated, you can't come in. That's apart from a broad umbrella concern or control by the federal government. I don't think you're going to see a federal government mandate about that. It might be at the local level, though.
Interesting. All right. Well, we like to have some fun on this show as well. And you really have become a preeminent cultural figure. I've got my Fauci on the couch pillow right here that I have in my office. And just a few weeks ago, a comedian named Matthew Friend did an impression of you on our show. I want you to watch it and then assess.
Well, what you need to understand, Elex, is I am so glad to be here right now because I am indoors with no one around me, so I can finally have my mask off my face. I can breathe again. More and more people should be wearing masks, as you know.
So what do you make of that?
You did a great job, Alex.
So what is the weirdest or coolest or most unexpected thing that's happened to you since you've become this sort of newfound cultural figure? A moment of that was just so surreal for you.
Oh, you know, there were several of them, but one that I do remember was doing an Instagram with Julia Roberts, you know, one of the most extraordinary, beautiful, and talented actresses, sitting there and having a conversation, you know, in the sense of our being friends, you know. So who would have thought when I was watching A Pretty Woman a couple of decades ago that I'd be sitting down having a conversation with Julia Roberts? She really is an extraordinarily nice person. It's just, you know, that was very impressive upon me. What a really nice person she was.
You are the new Richard Gere, Dr. Fauci. Before we go, one more fun thing. I know you're a big basketball guy like me. You joined us on our show 9 months ago, and you made this prediction. Who's going to win the NBA Finals this year?
Well, you know, I have to say the Lakers for sure.
You were right. So this year, Lakers are tough. You're a Brooklyn guy. You know, they got a good team going. Who wins the finals?
You know, I still think it's going to be the Lakers, to be honest with you. And I said that, I got a couple of phone calls from Brooklyn saying they're going to disown me because I didn't say Brooklyn, but I still got to go with LA.
All right, and you're also a huge baseball guy. Opening day this week, that's a moment to celebrate for this entire country. Who do you think wins the World Series?
You know, I get asked this. I have great confidence in the Nats. You know, they had a really bad year last year. They came in last. But remember, in 2019, they were spectacular and won the World Series. So we're going to see a repeat of 2019.
Well, of course, we here in Los Angeles are rooting for a repeat of 2020 when the Dodgers won the World Series. Dr. Fauci, we love to play music on this show, so we are now going to